What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. It is time for the final video in this interview series with Andrew Riesen from Herd. We have been talking all things bookkeeping and tax in private practice. And in today's video, Andrew's going to address the question of how you deal with taxes when maybe you live in a different state than you practice in, or maybe you're practicing in multiple states. This question just seemed totally overwhelming to me, but it turns out it's not too bad. So we're gonna dive into that one in this video. It's gonna be relatively short and sweet, but before we dive into the interview, I wanna give the disclaimer that the content of this video does not constitute legal or professional or tax advice. So if you're in need of a professional, please seek their counsel. Now, with that said, let's dive into the interview.
Well, Andrew, I think we have time for just one more question, even though there's so many more that we could get to. But a lot of folks ask questions about providing therapy in more than one jurisdiction, more than one state. Somebody says, where do I start when I live in one state and provide therapy in another? Well, I have no idea.
Yes, this is a scary thing, and particularly an interesting topic for us tax accountants, because there is constantly changing legislation on what causes an individual taxpayer to owe tax in an individual state. Nexus is the term that a tax accountant might use, or the term that the state would use to determine if you do owe taxes in the state. If you are a therapist who is operating in one state, and let's say living in one state and operating in 2 to 3 separate states, in all likelihood, you are going to be responsible for paying taxes in that individual state if you have triggered the events that would cause taxation in that individual state. This is a fairly complex tax issue to dive into. And if you are operating out of multiple states, I would highly recommend meeting with a tax professional to get an understanding of what the specific nexus laws are, or what events happening in that state, or what amount of money in that individual state do I need to be earning to which I might owe taxes in that individual state. In the case that you do owe taxes in that individual state, you would be filing an alien return or an out-of-state return for that individual state, and then likely be credited back an amount to the state that you're operating out of or living in. But this is a complex topic with a lot of nuance on a state-by-state basis. So I would always recommend chatting with someone as it relates to cross-state licensure and telehealth operating across state lines.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for tackling a complicated question, which has a complicated answer. But I think to sum up, basically, it depends on what state you live in and what state or states you are practicing in. So make sure you do your research to figure out what states you might potentially owe taxes in. There's also a really helpful article on Herd's website about how to navigate taxes when you practice in a different state than you live in. So I've linked to that website below. I know it's a lot of work, and it is just another one of those things where if you are practicing in a different state than you live, or practicing in multiple states, it's a good idea to consult with a tax professional just to make sure you're doing things properly. If you are looking for that professional help, of course, Herd is equipped to help you navigate those questions about, what if I'm practicing in a different state or multiple states or whatever it might be. They can help you sort that stuff out. So if you're interested in checking out Herd, I've linked to their website below. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes is an all-encompassing EHR platform that covers basically all of your practice management needs. Now, if you're feeling a little bit unsure and you want to check things out, you can get 2 months to try out TherapyNotes for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, a huge thank you again to Andrew for answering all of these different questions in this interview series, including today's video. If you're curious to check out all the different topics that we covered in this interview, you can either check out the playlist where all of the videos are featured, or you can watch the entire unedited video of the entire interview. Both of those are linked below if you're interested in checking those out. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.